As we head towards the summer stage and beyond in Overwatch League 2023, every team will attempt to forge their legacy and leave a mark that lasts forever. Given the trajectory along with expectations, I'd say that obviously this means a lot more to some teams than others, which begs the question: who faces the most pressure to perform in the summer stage and beyond? It's entirely subjective, but here is, at least in my opinion, the 10 franchises that face the most pressure here in the home stretch. And starting out at number 10 is the Vancouver Titans. Despite having their best performance in years, the Titans are in a really strange place right now, and it's all because of this recent drama with Aspire. This is not an easy thing for the players or the org to overcome. One of their own guys turned out to be a pretty terrible person, and it likely shook them to their very core. The org you play for is under a serious PR crisis right now for management supposedly knowing about this stuff all along. It makes your entire org look like a villain. Whether it's your fault or not really does not matter. People will be actively preying on your team's downfall now, and for the players, they have to find a way to press onward. And this kind of stuff can really affect your focus. Everybody handles this type of thing differently. To give it your all in this situation and not let it get to you is a very difficult task, and the Titans have playoffs on their minds as well. It is a lot of stress, and I think that mental battle will ultimately decide if this team falls or flies. And not far behind is the Toronto Defiant. Toronto are here for one simple reason. They have been nowhere close to what they were supposed to be. This was supposed to be the year where the Defiant finally had a stable core that could potentially stick together not just this year, but for years to come. Expectations were so incredibly high, and so far they have completely failed to meet them. They, after all these years, are still mid. And to put it frankly, the fans are tired of it. It is literally the same thing every single year. There's no stability whatsoever, and it is infuriating. There is pressure to perform from the fans, and a lot of these guys also probably feel it individually. They know they should be playing at a way higher standard, and for some of them, their careers could be on the line. If the new roster additions fail to make a difference, and this team still ends up being a flop, it is curtains. At the 8th spot, I'm going with the LA Valiant. It may seem a little weird for a team with no expectations and zero org support to be under any kind of pressure, but there actually is a lot on the line from them for a legacy standpoint. If the Valiant fail to win a game during the summer, they'll be the first team in league history to have not one, but 2 winless seasons. And that would put the Valiant at an all-time level of bad that may never be matched. That kind of record would stand for all of time and would further signify that the Immortals are the worst owners in Overwatch League history. The Valiant are a sorry excuse for a franchise, and going winless for a second time would make them the eternal lolcow of the league. For the sake of this franchise, and for any of the fans left over, as well as the players currently on that team in terms of securing a potential job next year, I hope that they win a game. And at number 7, I'm picking the Guangzhou Charge. The Charge are in quite the predicament, you see. This core of players has failed multiple times in the clutch to make big tournaments. There was the play-ins last year, and then there's this year where they lost in spectacular fashion to the Dreamer squad as well as the Spark to miss out on mid-season madness. And it's because of these chokes that people are ultimately calling them choke artists. The Charge, for the sake of pride, have a narrative to fight off. They can't afford to mess up when the summer knockouts come around. If they fail, if they manage to come up short yet again, management is going to tear this team apart. 3 chokes with this core is unacceptable. There are jobs and reputations on the line right now, and for somebody like ChoiceA1, this stretch of gameplay is especially meaningful. Every other member of his team has been on a solid squad that's either made the playoffs or some kind of tournament. He is the only one now, and as the best player on his team and his supposed top player in the league, he can't let this kind of blemish continue. He's got to be the leader, and he has to clutch up when it matters. Choi's legacy is on the table. This man has continuously not gotten any respect since joining the league, and 3 years straight of missing the playoffs would not be doing him any favors. Choi and the Charge cannot afford to fail. Taking up the 6th slot is going to be the Florida Mayhem. The Mayhem are obviously not a top-of-the-line title favorite, at least right now, and you'd think that means they're probably in the clear, but that couldn't be any further from the truth. We all know that the Mayhem have a lot of potential. We've seen flashes of brilliance, both in the Pro-Am and throughout this entire regular season. We know that they can be that clutch team that can definitely play up to the level of the best teams in the league. They've shown that they're a dark horse candidate that can even stand up to the likes of the Outlaws, and because they've shown this level of play, people have very high expectations. Your roster is arguably the most stacked it has ever been in your history, and every single time you have a chance to do something great, you fall short. You lose games that you shouldn't, and you make things way harder than they need to be. The Mayhem face the pressure of not choking and beating all the teams they're supposed to while also playing up to their true potential. A team of this caliber that has already shown us what they're made of should be a lot more than what we've seen. LAN is something that really messes with their heads, at least at first. They have to overcome this kind of mental barrier and not be a flop during the early stages of a tournament so they can build up their confidence and maybe actually have a chance. Otherwise, the Mayhem will quickly be forgotten to the sands of time. And at the number 5 slot, I've got the Boston Uprising. So far, Boston have just been okay. They've overcome a lot of adversity, and there have been some decent performances, but the positives also come with some big-time negatives. Random terrible games and playing down to their competition has hindered their progress. They haven't played up to their true potential, and that is a big problem. This Boston roster was designed with big aspirations in mind. This veteran roster was formed with the philosophy that their star power and their experience would be enough to compete for a championship this year, and the fact that they haven't shown that kind of play yet and have sometimes looked very lost is rather worrisome. The bar is set really high for this crew. This is not their first rodeo by any means. This is a team of champions, of veterans, not of future stars in the making. But right now, they're just good enough to be 4th in the West. You came together to try and win it all this year, and anything less than a super deep playoff run would be seen as a flop. These guys have to prove that they're still championship caliber, and they actually have to make it into the late stages of a tournament. They've got to deliver for the Boston fans, who literally have not had an elite roster since 2018. There's a lot of potential disappointment in the air, and that means there's a lot of pressure. And if they fail to meet the mark, it is going to be absolutely crushing, so for the sake of the players and for the fans, let's hope that Boston come through. At number 4, I'm rocking with the Dallas Fuel, and I mean, yeah, pretty obvious, right? It's the defending champions. After 2 consecutive years of amazing success, you are largely expected to continue playing at a high level, even if there were some roster changes over the offseason. You've got a title to defend this year, you know? And what do Dallas have to show for it so far in 2023? A middling season, and a missed tournament. They just have to play better in the summer stage, because genuinely, they're in grave danger of having the worst defending championship season in league history. No defending champ has ever missed the playoffs before, and for reputation's sake, I hope that the Dallas players don't let something like this happen. This could be their last year together, this core I mean. Obviously they don't have everybody, but most of the core is still around, so you'd expect more from them, and you just have to play well enough to go out with a serious bang. You can't let your career potentially end this way, as some of these guys maybe contemplate what comes next. Do not suffer from some kind of championship hangover. Do better. Number 3. The Houston Outlaws, another fairly obvious one I'd like to add. They're one of the only title contenders in the Overwatch League, at least right now. They're the clear-cut second best team and the only rival of the Atlanta Reign. And at their skill level, with the expectations that they have on their shoulders, there can't be any kind of fall off. After what they have shown us so far this year, anything less than more dominance will be a disappointment. The Outlaws face the pressure of staying consistent, but also taking their game to the final level. You've shown that you're a worthy adversary against the Atlanta Reign, but now you have to beat them. You have to become number 1. You've got to show us that you learned something from your defeat. With this kind of team, with this kind of roster and skill level, it is championship or absolutely nothing. A super team like this may not last even beyond this season. You've got to make the most of your opportunity before becoming comes way too late, and the players definitely recognize this, which is why it only adds on to the pressure that they're feeling. The Outlaws have a lot to deliver on right now, and I'll be watching the rest of their season with great interest. Moving on to number 2, I'm going with the San Francisco Shock. They climb over the Houston Outlaws for me personally just because of what's on the line. This season is supposed to look a lot different right now. With this kind of team that they assembled, plus the reigning MVP, the Shock were supposed to be a real competitor for the title, and so far, they have been nothing but a mediocre team and are a massive disappointment both to the fans and to the league itself. This Shock team is supposed to be stacked. That skill and potential from O2 Blast is supposed to immediately translate into league success. The Shock can't be irrelevant in the summer and in the playoffs. If they fail and continue to go down the same path, it's going to cost them jobs, it's going to destroy careers, and most importantly, it's going to go down as one of the biggest flops in league history. Think about what it could do for a lot of these young first-year players. These guys are trying to be molded into something, and this first year is pivotal to their growth. If they fail, and the Shock are bad, and they can't tune out all that noise, it could ruin their future in this league. As a bunch of first and second year players, you're just trying to establish yourself, but you have all of this pressure of trying to be the best, of carrying on the O2 Blast name, of meeting the Shock fans and general fans' expectations. That can do a lot for a young team that just isn't ready for it. Being able to purely focus on your performance in this situation is really hard, and that's not even where it ends. It goes beyond the young players. Think about what this could do for Krusty's credibility, and how it could severely tarnish the legacy, an amazing start to Proper's career. A bad season would completely send the Shock into disarray, and their future would certainly be in jeopardy. It's a playoff run or bust with this team, and there is no exception. Speaking of playoff runs, it should come to no surprise that the team facing the most pressure heading into the second half of this season is the Atlanta Reign. They're undefeated. They're the best team in the league, and they are largely expected at this point in time to win it all. And it's because of this type of reputation that they developed that they have a big target on their back. Your expectations are through the roof. You're expected to win every single game, and now everybody's going to want to beat you. Houston in particular are dying to get another chance, and some of these other teams might feel a bit more up to the challenge after witnessing them look at least a little bit human in the midseason madness. You're going to be the team that everybody is gunning to defeat. Realistically speaking, there is literally nowhere to go but down if you're the Atlanta Reign. They know that there is only one outcome that won't lead to heartbreak and disappointment. This team was assembled to win a championship. All eyes are on them now. When you have all of these expectations to uphold and this reputation, with the added pressure of keeping the winning streak alive and not letting your fans down, it can take a mental toll. And it doesn't matter what kind of player you are, as everybody to a certain extent is going to feel that kind of pressure, and it's going to be on the Atlanta Reign to navigate this storm and stay on top. Time to define your legacy. Show us what you got. And we'll leave it there. That is, in my opinion, the top 10 teams facing the most pressure heading into the second half of OWL 2023. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, like this video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe if you want more Overwatch League content. And until next time, this is ATP, signing out. Peace.